About ready to get started. Okay, it looks like we are live. So thanks to everyone for joining us for our conversation tonight with Tania Saleh, who's currently in residence here at the Siena Art Institute. So she's our special guest, not just this evening, but for a whole 4-week residency here at the Siena Art Institute. Obviously, we're using this new format for tonight's event, which is taking place both in person and simultaneously live streaming online. So hopefully we won't have too many glitches as we move forward in this hybrid format. So thank you for everyone for joining us both in here and out there online. We have a small group of masked people here joining us in the studios of the Siena Art Institute, and obviously we're able to then connect with a larger audience online. So from both of our audiences, we welcome questions and comments, which we'll be planning to then respond to your questions during the second part of today's talk. So it's my sincere pleasure to introduce this evening's speaker, Tania Saleh, who arrived a little over a week ago for this 4-week residency here at the Siena Art Institute. She is a Lebanese singer, songwriter, and visual artist, and has been one of the most central alternative music scene since the 90s. She's never stopped seeking new connections with countless other art forms, mixing traditional music forms with an ever-expanding the Lebanese American University Lifetime Achievement Award for her outstanding work in the visual and musical fields for more than 25 years. Throughout her career, she has released 5 studio albums and 2 live albums, and cooperated with a who's who of and street art, in which Tania drew all the murals and wrote the music to almost all the poems. Intersection won the German Record Critics Award in 2018. Illustrated and animated during the lockdown period. Her 7th album, entitled 10 AD, was released in 2021, the Norwegian label KKV. As a visual artist, she has been part of various workshops and residencies around the world. In Egypt. She has also performed at the Oslo World Music Festival and the Nobel Peace Center in Norway.
Buonasera. I'm so Italian, but I promise I will learn later on. After my visit, I discovered how important it is. Thank you, Lisa, for the introduction, and thanks to and music videos. As a creative director, of course, I didn't do everything all the time. I was always helped by helped me achieve whatever I had in mind.
And I also worked for the identities of various artists as well, the other albums that I brought with me, so that you can maybe flip and see how they are designed. I've also been able to do a lot of collaborations with local and international artists, and my songs have been in many compilations throughout the world, which is also very good as a musician to be known in the world, because now the trend is to have compilations of different artists so that people can listen to one song here, one song there, and know much more artists than just one album with one artist's straight through. So I had the chance to be in compilations like Putumayo and like in Galileo in Germany, four of them in Turkey, one in Norway, and two others in the USA in my beginnings. I also I've always had this passion with animation. Ever since I was a kid, I watched. I watched the animations, of course, that I grew up with, the early Disneys, but I also researched as I grew older the alternative animations that happened in the whole world, and especially the Europeans and the Japanese, as well as some from our region that are really very important and that I learned from a lot. So I tried to work on animations, but the problem was that I had a lot of things to do, and I was a jack of all trades. I wanted to do everything, so I didn't really have time, because animation demands a lot of time, and it drains you and it takes your full energy. So I was able to do a few illustrated animations. I mean, I can say that they are illustrations that are moving, but not the proper animation style that is done properly in the industry. But I tried to implement it. In the latest album, I did lyric videos instead of making music videos. So we have the lyrics and the translations along with some illustrations to illustrate the song. Before that, I did an animated illustration story. I made it into a song during the lockdown. It's called I Wish. I will show it to you later. I also worked on street art for the album that is called Intersection, which was an audiovisual experiment that was an ode to Arabic poetry and Arabic street art, because at the time where the, the uprisings happened in the Arab world that started in 2010, there was a lot of street art on the streets of the whole Arab world, and it was very dangerous for the street artists to do that. And I was watching and following them and trying to find out what they were, because immediately the second day the government would come and wash them away. So I had the chance to discover them and put them in this film, along with myself doing the murals and showing a bit of the ideas that the poets wanted to say during 100 years of time of our history. The Arab world, of course, is fragmented to the extent that there is maybe very little chance that it's going to be together again. But at least this album was saying that we have the same language. At least let's try to speak together. So this was the Intersection album, and there was also a music video that I worked with a very interesting illustrator animator from Lebanon named David Habshi, which I'm going to show you as well. As Lisa said, the album Intersection has won the German Record Critics Award. And also recently, I have received the same award for my latest album, which I don't know why the Germans like my music, but I'm very happy and grateful. And I also wrote lyrics for soundtracks of Lebanese films. A few of the songs have become talked about because they were a bit controversial. One of them is about a few women who are trying to make space cake for their husbands and their sons and their loved ones so that they don't go to war. So this was one of the songs that I have written that I thought that it would be banned from the you know, from ever happening, but somehow it worked, and it was one of the songs in the films that was that I'm most proud of. And these are the visuals from the awards, the German award. Okay, so how it all started. Why did I want to go into arts? The story is that when I was 4, my parents had a lot of artist friends, and one of them was this Egyptian illustrator named Helmi Touni, who visited our house. This sketch of me. When he looked at me, he said, "Oh, I want to draw this little girl." So he drew the sketch. To him, it was just a plaything. I mean, he didn't mean to draw me to sell it to an auction or something. But for me, it was a fantastic memory that I couldn't forget, and it still inspires me until today. I was thinking, how could this man with just a few brush or pen marks on a blank paper draw this expression of someone who he just met? So to me, that was very, very strong, and I wanted to be like him. Ever since I was 4, I started drawing. And also in our house, there were always children books that were mainly Egyptian illustrators who did them, and Palestinian illustrators as well. So I was always looking at the illustrations with love, and I always wanted to be like them. So this grew with me ever since I was a child. So I went against my mother's will into fine arts, because of course in the way in my region it's very hard to understand that someone wants to be an artist, because to them you should be you should do either you should be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, so that society would approve you. But when you're an artist, people would tend to think that they're just sketching. So this is the idea in general, of course, because there are always exceptions, and people, an artist, you're not going to survive of your art. You're going to die of hunger, and people will pity you, and you're going to you'll never be appreciated. But I don't know why this drive in me, this passion I had for all kinds of art, drove me to become what I'm trying to be today. So this is part of the end of year exhibition where I received the award of the Sheikh Zayed, which was a prestigious award for the people who did well. This is my early work. I was very much influenced by Egon Schiele. And then when I went to France to continue my studies in art plastique, I wanted to concentrate on illustration, because I knew I would never become a painter. Becoming a painter is something that demands a lot of concentration and attention, and you cannot do anything else with it. And this should be your life. And I didn't think I want to only concentrate on becoming a painter. So I thought maybe being an illustrator can make me become like those people that I admired when I was a child. And then being an illustrator can help you express a concept, express an idea better than a painting. A painting is very personal, and it can be just a painting because you want it to be like that. And sometimes, most of the time, it's not about a specific concept. It's just the way the painter wants to express themselves. But I chose to become an illustrator, and I also tried to work with typography. I tried to illustrate a certain typographic style with my illustrations, which later on I used in different ways, not only with my illustration. I tried to use the typography, which is called calidrawing. It's not calligraphy, and it's not typography. It's drawing the letter the way you see fit. So those are the first illustrations of my early years, when I had time to stay stuck to my sketchbook. Now, the visual arts should become a profession, because you can't just sketch on your sketchbook. You should have a job. So when I came back from France, applied to this TV station where I was part of a team of the creative department of the TV station that founded the creative identity of the station, including the logo and the opening and closing items, the opening and closing of programs, the breaks between programs, and all the printed material that were used for advertising for the TV. So this lasted, those are snapshots of the animated breaks that I did. When I look at them again now, after all these years, it's been almost 30 years, I think, oh, they're bad. I don't want to show them animated, but I'll just show snapshots because the style of the animation was very much in the beginning. So if you want to look at it as a timeless thing, it's not. It's just, it applies only to the time where it was created, where on TV there was nothing like that in our part of the world. There was a stick man who came in and out of between programs to say, well, now it's the news, or now it's this program or that. But there was nothing in terms of first and very important, the Arabic lettering and calligraphy and even speaking in Arabic was out of the question, because back then the youth were very much westernized, and to them Arabic was something, an old-fashioned thing that we didn't want to use. But then those things came to appreciate the calligraphy and to bring it back to its funky, to make it funky in a way. And this is the first, okay, I stayed in the TV station for 2 years, and then I had to leave because I thought that I was doing the same thing and I was not learning anything anymore. So I went into advertising because I had taken courses in my university. I had taken, as well as fine arts, I had courses in advertising because my mother said, you need to find something to feed you. You're not going to draw me illustrations all day. So I went into this company, Leo Burnett Advertising in Beirut, and I did this first. This was my first ever animated ad. I want to show it to you. Let me just. مارق علي مدري شو ناسي وش اللي بدك عصير كاسك فاضي ما بيصير حلمي شي مرة اوعى بين الفواكه شجرة مزروعة سيني قصد شتور عصير ديني منه أساطير. Anyway, this was the first animation I did, and which taught me a lot because I had to write the song as well, and to write the music and do the animation, which took a hell lot of time. But it taught me a lot about how animation is to be done properly and not just a quick thing. It's not an illustration. Animation demands, at least if you're going to be nice to yourself, you have to at least, thank you, Lisa, at least draw 12 frames each second. It's like 26 seconds multiplied by 12. So it was a humongous amount of work. I didn't sleep for like maybe 3 months and a half. After I released the first single and I decided to go into writing songs, I also fell in love with my ex-husband, and we decided immediately to make a child. And then I went into motherhood and all this, episode of being a mother and having to work in advertising and write my music and be a fantastic mother and wife and all of this combo of that every woman can relate to. So you see in the design of the booklet of the album, there's this woman in the middle of her daily chore. She's trying to write music, so music and lyrics are in the middle of the story. And the album that came after that, it took also another maybe 10 years because I had the other child, the second child. So in the middle of being everything, on top we have a new child. So it took a lot of time for the second album to come out. And I wasn't sure of my abilities as an illustrator anymore or as a designer. I stopped working in advertising for a while when I had my children. So my self-esteem had dropped drastically. So I asked this fantastic illustrator animator to help me create my album design and to create an animation for one of the songs, which he did, and I'd like to show it to you now. Sorry. في وحدي وطنية بنت عيلة وبنت حلال، وفي وحدي عربية اللوية عراسة الشام، في وحدي أوروبية من الجمال. أي وحدة بدك ما فيك تضلك وحدك، صار لازم تلاقي وحدة توقف حدك. يا وحدة بدك ما فيك تضلك وحدك، صار لازم تلاقي وحدة توقف حدك. شي وحدة تفهم عليك تتحملها وتتحملك، بتربيها ايديك ملكية وانت الملك. Okay, I'm not going to show you everything. I will leave the PDF somewhere in the institute so anyone can go in and you have all the links. You can watch whenever you like. So after this second album, I collaborated with this Norwegian label for the first time because I was always an independent artist. No one gave any importance to me in terms of production. And suddenly there was this Norwegian label that was interested to produce my next album. But this doesn't mean that to produce this next album doesn't mean that they will make the music videos and the promotion and everything related to to existing online and all of that story. So I had to do a crowdfunding campaign to be able to do all this. So part of the crowdfunding campaign helped me do 2 music videos and create a special edition box, which you can see later when you can open it. But I'm leaving Miriam I mean, it's for you. You open them and then the rest of us can look at them. So yeah, a special edition box and some postcards and 2 music videos and 1 live concert from the crowdfunding campaign that I raised I raised $54,000 from the crowdfunding campaign. Yeah, and I had already recorded the music and then I did the whole. I spent every single penny, but it was such a hectic period of my life, like 2 months of my life, where I was so concentrated on winning this campaign because I said to myself, if you lose it, then you stop doing music. Because I had asked people to help because they want me to continue making music, and I explained to them I didn't have the budget. So I told them, if you really want me to continue, then you can support me if you wish. But I think I will never do this again in my life. It was such a hectic episode that, but it was successful, which is good. But I don't want to go through that again. So the next album was also produced by the Norwegian label. By then, I was much more known because the distribution helped me to be on all the platforms, Spotify, Deezer, and Rami, the rest of them, Apple Music, all of them. So when Intersection, the next album came, I had already been on the platform, so it was easier for it to be heard, and especially that I did this 15-minute film that accompanied it to promote it and to promote the poets that I used in the album and to promote the street artists. So the film also helped in the promotion, and it was not a music video. I didn't want to do a regular music video where I would be dancing or singing. I wanted this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with dancing, but I mean, I wanted this to be about making. How did it happen? What is the essence of the poetry that the poets wanted to say, and why was I drawing on the street? I mean, all this was put together in one place, which I think was much better than just a music video, normal music video. And then and during the lockdown, I wanted to do something with my time because I was going crazy with this amount of time that I had, and nothing happened in my life. There was no live performances, no contacts with anyone. I didn't see my friends. I barely had the chance to hug and kiss my kids. So I said, I have to make use of this time. So I said, okay, now this is perfect time for you to work on your animation and your illustration. So I did those illustrations and I tried to animate them into a song that is, now I will show it to you in a few minutes if we have time. Are we okay with time? We're 35, so yeah. Anyway, you'll be able to see it on your own. For the latest album, which is something I'm very proud of, I named it 10 AD, which means 10 years after divorce. And in Arabic, in Arabic, it also says the same thing, but in Arabic, Ashra Mim, so it's 10. Mim means miladiya, but it can also mean the abbreviation of one letter. It can be many things. So I kept it a bit enigmatic. But anyway, the idea was to talk about myself as a woman after being divorced for 10 years in a society where being emancipated is something seen as until now in general it's seen as you want to be manly if you want to be emancipated. You have to be more subdued and erased to be accepted. But if you have an opinion and you have an ambition, you're immediately cast away. They fight you. They don't want you to be there. They try to eliminate you so that other women don't do the same in your small society and in the big society. So anyway, so I talked about all these issues. I talked about how we have become, because of this Corona episode, we have become so threatened by being secluded from nature. We have become so much addicted to our digital phones and digital lives. We're losing it. We're approaching the end of our civilization if we keep on doing so. All these topics were treated in this album, not only emotional stories of real love and impossible love that happened to me during this period of my life. This is part of the illustrated booklet. Oh, I also had time to illustrate. So now since Corona, I think that the positive thing about it is that it gave me time to work on the things that I have passion for. So this is part of also of the booklet. Some personal illustrations that I did also during that time to just on my personal diary. I also have a page on Instagram for my doodles, in case you like to check it out. Those are illustrations I did for postcards that accompanied the crowdfunding campaign, or the illustration of the album covers. So this is the box that contains 4 albums and illustrated postcards. And I also did, for the crowdfunding campaign, my illustrations on t-shirts that I gave away as gifts for the people who helped in the crowdfunding. these are also parts of my work, designing other artists' albums. I also did all the brochures and posters for my own work, and typography and single design. I also created a typeface. This is a typeface I created. It's actually a typeface that we can type on the computer. I did this workshop with a fantastic team of professionals in typography design at the American University of Beirut, which helped me create this font. It was also took a humongous amount of time, but I was very happy, and I used it in the design of the intersection album, so that it can become original and not make use of any kind of typography that I found. I also did a lot of advertising films and animations during my work at Leo Burnett, which lasted like 10 or 15 years on and off. So this is, to make a long story short, this is an animation about the story of the wheel that we did for this cheese brand. So tin can design, campaigns for Dunkin' Donuts, BBC, chicken nuggets, and the street art, which was part of the intersection. This is the map of the Arab world, which the lady is trying to stitch back together again. This is a coffin, and it says homeland on the coffin, so that's a family running away with their homeland in the coffin. This is ignorance. And all those are in different parts of the Arab world, and the homeland one was in Oslo. This is about extremism, so they're all veiled up, but they're trying to smoke or eat ice cream and can't walk. Like living a normal life cannot happen for you if you're that extreme. I mean, I have nothing against the veil, but I have something against this complete darkness. To me, it's unacceptable that a woman has to live this life like caged and covered all her life because men don't want her to be. And it's not even religion to me. I mean, I'm sorry for the online audience if someone disagrees, but to me this is outrageous. I cannot accept it. It's to me is not anyway. This is another street art I did in Rio in Brazil and another one in Lebanon. It's a quote from Khalil Gibran. It says, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness so that the winds of heaven can fly between them." And this is also a street art I did for a fundraising campaign for the Children Cancer Center. This was my first ever mural. I was barely 20. And those are some pictures of my live performances, which I hope will come back again, because after 2 years of not performing, I have a feeling that maybe I won't perform again, and it's becoming it's a problem. Anyway, I hope it comes back again. This is at the Barbican. This was at the Institut du Monde Arabe in France. This is in Egypt, one of my favorite Egyptian musicians. And this is one of the best concerts I had in Lebanon after the crowdfunding campaign. And shukran, thank you very much.
Great.
Are we okay with timing?
Yes, I think we have time for a few questions. It's been really nice. We've had just some nice positive comments from our online viewers. We have Amar Omri and Mohsen Mohammed, who are all sending lots of compliments with our online audience. But
I'm very happy that you're here with us. Thank you.
But perhaps there might be some questions also here with our in-person audience.
You were so creative. How do you sleep? Did you mind all the time? Seriously.
Thank you for this question. Well, I don't actually sleep. Sleeping, I think of how like now for my next project, which I'm here for at the institute, I'm not sleeping because I want to finish something before leaving. Like it's a constant battle with my mind. So and it helps me also stay alive, because if I I have this urge of always being creative, and if it stops, then it annoys me. I feel unuseful, for some reason. And that's, I think the reason is that because my father had died young. So to me, it's an urge to finish a lot of things before we die, so that we feel, that we accomplished something. Because he had a lot of dreams, and then suddenly cancer came and took him away. So I think this is the reason why I'm so much eager to finish many things at the same time.
I'm really struck by the word intersection, which you've used multiple times. And I'm really interested that you are, on the one hand, an audio artist with your music and a visual artist with your illustration. As you move forward, when you think about a song or an illustration, are you always in a conversation between the audio and the visual? Does one come first?
Thank you for the question. Well, actually, in the beginning, I was thinking, okay, now my work in advertising is something, and illustration is something, and my music is something else. Okay, I have a visual idea, but I never thought to marry them together as much as today. So at every intersection of the next album or the next project, because it can be something else other a film, it can be an animated film, it can be a story documentary. I mean, I'm leaving myself open, but as long as I have both worlds married together, I think I'm fine. But it happened with time. It didn't happen in the beginning. I knew that I could do them, but marrying them together in one project was not. It didn't come in the beginning. It came with time. It started actually with Intersection, the album. It started to become serious because I had done this project that had to do with many things altogether. And from now on, I shouldn't think of myself only as a musician or only as an illustrator. They should always come together.
About your relationship with music and singing, because you had a training as a child in music, or because you said you were telling us that you second point you asked to write a song. At the second point,
I'm sorry, Franca. I have to. Yes, please.
Yeah, at the
I
second
can.
point, you mentioned that you were asked to write a song for one of your nation.
Yeah.
But have you had a training in music, like when you were a child, or because I really need some music and singing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, when I was a child, my mother used to sing. She had a lovely voice, so I probably I imitated her, and I wanted to sing, but it never was a plan. I mean, I didn't want to be a singer. It's very strange, but I wanted it as a hobby. Like I've always been in rock bands when I was a teenager. I went from rock band to the other all the time. I love to perform, but to me it was a hobby. But then when my boss said, well, this hobby can become something else, try to make it. And especially the fact that I was writing my own song and not just singing, because when he saw that I was doing that for advertising, he said, okay, if you can do it, and then the country needs someone, especially a woman, who can write her own stories, because we always view the world from the point of view of the man. So if you are becoming a writer, then I will support you, I will help you, I will be there for you. So this is how I started. Otherwise, I would never have ventured in it, because I trusted him very much, and until now, he's a very good friend, along with his lovely wife. Yes.
You live in a very troubled land. How has it affected your art and your music?
Well, to be honest, it's very inspiring, this troubled land, because I mean, whether we like it or not, there are many stories to talk about. There are many sufferings. There are many unfortunate events that make you want to shout out loud about it. And I think in all my songs I have tried to talk about the situation in my region, not only in Lebanon, because it has always been a boiling pot of hell, you know. And somehow I always think, okay, there are many people who want to immigrate, to leave the country, to live in another place. But I tell myself, if I live in Sweden, for instance, or in Italy with all this beauty and beautiful people, I mean, what am I going to talk about? How am I going to be true to myself? It's not going to work. So somehow it's good for the art. This living in this mess is good for the art, unfortunately. But I mean, maybe one day we will try to be creative with something that is much more beautiful. I really hope so. I would love to write a happy musical about Lebanon or about the Arab world, but let me just see the just a small light so that I can build on it. But unfortunately, there's nothing like that coming up soon. Yes.
Very struck by how you seem to have navigated so many really dense, intense episodes of life as you describe them. I'm wondering what keeps you rooted, because the way that you narrate all of these episodes is very peaceful. I mean, the vibe that I'm getting is very peaceful, even though some of them have been horrendous, probably. Some of it's not very important. So I'm just wondering, I have an idea, but what keeps you rooted?
Well, it's funny you're asking this question, Miriam, because I'm here in this residency to find this answer. I'm working on a project that is probably a conversation between myself and a tree, to ask this tree how it's able to be rooted and and since the tree cannot move and cannot swim and cannot fly, how is it able to live in one place and stay rooted and stay happy and stay and flourish? So I think this is the next project, and thank you for asking the question.
Is it possible to listen more?
Sorry?
Is it possible to listen more?
Of course, it is always possible, but I mean, I'm just afraid that Lisa might say that we don't have time anymore. But
No, it's I think maybe if there's not other questions, we maybe watch one more video to wrap up.
yes, I would love
But-
to actually show you the animated song that I did. I really like to have your opinion on that.
But I'll also just mention to our in-person online viewers that she also has a whole YouTube channel where you can see hours and hours of her music and also her animations there. So I'd very much encourage you guys to check that out as well. But yes,
Hey, can you be my manager, Lisa?
Not letting her go.
عم بحلم عمر عرسي ولا عالبال لا إله مستقبل ولا ماضي مفتوح ميت احتمال عم بحلم عمر عرسي لا عالخاطر ولا عالبال لإله مستقبل ولا ماضي مفتوح عميد احتمال يا ريت 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 ببني على كوكب تاني لا في تراب ولا في ذهب بيساعد الناس الحلوين اللي بحبهم بلا سبب ببني على كوكب تاني لا في تراب ولا في ذهب بيساعد الناس الحلوين اللي بحبهم بلا سبب يا ريت يا ريت يا ريت يا ريت Pipa papa pipa papa pipa la la di da da di da da pipa papa pipa la la di da di da di pipa 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 di كل واحد عنده قصة يبقى ولا بنصها في ناس بتلعب دورة في ناس بتنسى نصها كل وحدة عندها قصة يبقى ولا بنصها في ناس بتلعب دورة وفي ناس بتنسى نصها
Thank you so much, Tania. That was very inspiring. And it's really been wonderful to have this insight into your work and your creative practice.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for our audience for your questions and positive comments. We have a lot of positivity coming in from our online audience as well. So I'll just remind our audience members that we'll have a break next week because of the national holiday of All Saints Day, but stay tuned for some of our upcoming events. We hope you can all join us for some of our upcoming events, and we'll be having announcements on our social media about that schedule. So thank you all so much. And again, thank you so much, Tania.